Not only that, when it started, I think it was like zero point 0.1 cent of a dollar. So one Bitcoin was equal to 0.1 cent, something that is negligible. In a couple of years, it jumped to $35. As of today, if I'm not mistaken, one Bitcoin that was 0.1 cent now is equivalent to $11,000 plus. This is ridiculous. What is this?
So, this is another, I think this is probably the most commonly used objection against Bitcoin by Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And in all honesty, it's actually probably the most annoying. But let's explore this line of thinking. So Bitcoin's price was practically nothing, and then in a couple of months or years, it went up to a higher lot, and it came down, and it went up, and it went down. And this essentially is the objection for, I guess, the validity of Bitcoin. I'm not sure why it's an objection for it being halal, but point being, it's an objection for whether or not Bitcoin is a currency, or can be a currency, or is valid, or whatever they want to say. So I guess I can answer this in two parts. The first part would be the simple answer. And that will be by simply asking those who have this objection to answer me a simple question. What's that question? According to you, what should the price of Bitcoin be in order for it to be halal, and who decides that price? Simple question. So imagine we had the Khalifa and he decided to make Bitcoin. Imagine our Khalifa was Satoshi himself and he issued Bitcoin. And we wanted to decide how much this thing is worth. Who decides that, and what is that price? That's the first question. You can reword it another way. If the Imam of the Muslims who owned the currency, how does he enforce this price that he decided to be? And does he even have the right to set a price? Now, the reason why this fails, or why this simple question reveals the fallacy of this argument against Bitcoin, is that there are only two answers to this question. There's no third one. Either one, it is for someone to decide what price Bitcoin is, whether it be one Bitcoin should be £1, £100, £1,000,000. If there is a person or a group of people, maybe it be the Khalifa or the Ministry of Finance or whatever it is, if they were to decide the price of Bitcoin, the next question would be then, okay, so why is that price a fair price, and why should anyone agree to that price, and how does one enforce that price? So you kind of answer the question with more problems than when you first started. When you first started, we just had Bitcoin and the price was decided by the market. Now we've said, no, so-and-so should decide the price. So then the question is, why so-and-so? Why not me? Why not you? Who has actually the right to state the price for everybody else? See, the thing is, the price for, let's say, Bitcoin comes from, it's an emergent property. As with the price of everything. What's the price of eggs? What's the price of bread? What's the price of a car? What's the price of anything? These prices are determined by the market. The collective interactions of human beings that come to a point whereby we discover the price. Prices are not dictated. Prices are discovered. That's what price discovery means in the market. Now, there are some governments who do fix prices. But what happened to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the Sahaba asked for that to happen? They requested, "O Messenger of Allah, sa'ir lana, set the prices for us, because the prices of certain commodities, certain items have gone up." And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused to do so. And he even mentioned that what would he do Yawm al-Qiyamah if he were to set the price, and he has to deal with the oppression that would have occurred to someone else. As in, if he decides the prices to be X, Y, and Z, that will no doubt oppress somebody else. And he said that the prices are set by Allah. So basically, what that teaches us is that there is no absolute price for something. Anyone who believes that there is an absolute price for anything does not understand the markets or business or trade. There is no absolute price. Even the concept of this is too expensive, this is too cheap. That's a relative description. It's too expensive for you, or it's too cheap for you, or maybe it's too expensive for what the collective market has decided, but it's a relative thing. So the price volatility of Bitcoin, to answer your question, the price volatility of Bitcoin is a product of the market discovering the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a currency. The more people use it, the less there is available to use. And based on supply and demand, the price needs to reflect that dynamic. So yes, it was at the very beginning a fraction of a cent because hardly anyone knew of it or wanted it. So it was technically not worthless, but it was technically very cheap, basically. But as time went on and more people want to use it, discovered its virtue, discovered its properties, and now they want to take it, therefore the price gets bid up. That's literally what it is. Price goes up when more people want it than those who don't, and the price goes down when the opposite occurs. And that's with everything. Right now, we're dealing with the price of oil going through the roof. Why is that? Because there's now a issue to do with the supply of oil due to the Ukrainian war and so on and so forth. Same thing, the price of wheat and food is also going up. Again, as an effect of supply and demand. One of the largest exporters of the world was Ukraine. And now they're engaged in something else. So now the price of wheat and so on and so forth, which is important for bread, is now going to go up. These are dynamics that are outside of the control of any one individual. And it's even the case with Bitcoin. So if you want to know what the price of Bitcoin is, look at the markets and we see what the price is. That is discovered through market forces. That's it, man. Once you understand how prices are discovered, then you understand why the price of Bitcoin goes up. It went up very quickly initially because it was, like I said, it was a very new thing, and the price affected it a lot. And its volatility is decreasing over time, but that exactly happens all the time. One last point about the issue of volatility of the currency. There's always a double standard in this topic as well, because what people don't fail to realize is that, people in Western countries, they fail to realize is that there are many countries out there who have a fiat currency that is more volatile than Bitcoin. So if volatility, price fluctuation, is something that doesn't make something a currency, then therefore the Turkish lira is not a currency. Therefore the Lebanese pound is not a currency. All these currencies that are more volatile, that move a lot more, and mainly in the downside, than Bitcoin, therefore they're not currencies. But no one denies that the Turkish lira is a currency, yet the Turkish lira has lost over 70% of its value in just this year alone. So why the double standards? One should always be fair and just when assessing Bitcoin and analyzing its properties. And as I mentioned before above, what the properties one should before they should ask someone a fatwa. One of them is bias. One shouldn't have a unleaning or unfair bias towards something. Anyone who criticizes Bitcoin for the things that also exist in fiat, yet they find no objections in that inside fiat money, that demonstrates a bias. As in, you want fiat, you want to maintain the fiat system, therefore you overlook the failings of the fiat system. But when you see those same failings in Bitcoin, you raise those objections. This demonstrates that there's a bias. Let's continue.
So it is as if you're throwing your money in a vacuum. not knowing whether it will increase or decrease, but most people don't care.
So again, this is a callback to the same argument about the money volatility, and the motivation for many people is that they only want Bitcoin to get more fiat. Let's just call it what it is. Many people are only involved in Bitcoin so they can get more fiat. That's it. Is that a problem? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess it depends. If you feel if it's a problem for someone to take the Shahada and become Muslim just to get married to some woman, a Muslim woman, yeah, that is a problem, isn't it? Because they've only seen the benefit and virtue of Islam through this woman, what you can get from marrying this woman. And I would say, bro, there's so much more to Islam than marrying a woman, you know? And likewise, I would say to Bitcoin, there's so much more to Bitcoin than just the fact that the price goes up. There's a lot more to Bitcoin than just the price goes up. If anyone only sees Bitcoin as money coming in or more getting more fiat, then I understand why they have this problem, why they find it difficult to understand Bitcoin, why they have statements like this and why they have views like this, because that's what they see it as. That's what it is. But I don't fully understand the idea of throwing money into a vacuum. But my point being is that he's drawing our attention to the volatility argument, and I would say yes, I agree with you, Shaykh. If someone only buys Bitcoin just to make more fiat, that's his only motivation, then yeah, touche, you won that one. Which is why I never say to people, buy Bitcoin because you're going to make more money. And that has never been the case. Bitcoin was founded to be an alternative to our current financial system, to solve the problems of the many problems we have in our current system, and to give us money that's not controlled by anybody. All of what I just said here had nothing to do with the price. These are virtues that comes with Bitcoin.
It's not logical, the fluctuation of the price.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the third time, price volatility. Like I said, this is one of them. That is probably the most commonly cited excuse or objection towards Bitcoin, price volatility, by both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And as I've already explained it above, and I'd like to just refer to the Arab saying, إِذَا عُرِفَ السَّبَبْ بَطَلَ الْعَجَبْ. If you knew the reason for the volatility, then your surprise would be nullified. And I think also, just another point, another side point, a little bit of a side rant. There is a fallacy about price stability. Since when has prices have to be stable? That's never been the case. Even the fiat price is not stable. I mean, the government's trying to have an illusion of stability, but there is no stability. We all know by consensus, this is a well-known fact. We all know that what we can buy today is less than what we could buy 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. We all know this. So we all know and acknowledge that our fiat money is losing value perpetually, continuously. So therefore, if you know something's going to continuously lose value, then that means you're saying it will eventually go to zero, which has been the case for all fiat from the beginning of time. Anytime you've had some fake money dictated by government, it has always been debased to nothing. It's always been. Nothing has ever survived because it's not sound money. So price volatility is not an issue. Even gold is volatile. Even silver is volatile. And if you accept that, acknowledge that silver is currency Islamically, silver is more volatile than all currencies on planet Earth, probably. I mean, just in 2020, it went from like $15 an ounce to like $30 an ounce. That's double. And it came back down to 25. All things have volatility. Just some more than others.
And the biggest loophole in it, that the price goes way up and it can also come way down. So it's like a bubble waiting to be inflated. And this what will happen soon.
Yeah, so for the fourth time now, the price action goes up and goes down. So it's quite clear, as you can probably see from the video, that the whole price volatility is a scare tactic. So what they're saying is, although the money can go up, it will go down again. So therefore, don't buy Bitcoin because you're going to lose your fiat. You see the sleight of hand? It's not really an objection to Bitcoin. It's more of a scare tactic. If you buy Bitcoin, you're going to lose your money. But the point is, if I converted £100 into reals and I got 500 reals as my money, and then whatever happened in Saudi Arabia and the economy wasn't going too well, and they said technically the reals compared to the pound went down, I still have 500 reals. I haven't lost money. I still have the money. It's in my hand. Likewise, if I bought one whole Bitcoin, it doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is in dollars. I still have one Bitcoin. I haven't lost money. I still have the Bitcoin. But again, back to the whole point. If you only see Bitcoin as a means to get more fiat, then yes, that's a very good concern. And if you've only come to Bitcoin to get more pounds, then yes, there is a concern. Which is why I say to people, give up on the idea of getting more pounds. Bitcoin is your alternative to the riba-based system. It's a means for you to exit this major sin of haram, of riba. It's a means for you to protect yourself from this riba. Every time you deposit your money into the bank account, you are engaging in this riba-based system. Don't fool yourself that you're not doing that. You are. So if you have Bitcoin, you have exited that system. You're no longer in that system. And on Yawm al-Qiyamah, inshallah ta'ala, you have to stand in front of Allah and say, Ya Allah, riba was everywhere. Riba was in cars, in buying houses. It was even in holidays and buying food. Riba was everywhere, but Ya Allah, I made effort. I made effort to leave that riba. Even though sometimes the volatility was up and down in terms of purchasing power, I still exited from that system. Ya Allah, please reward me for that effort. I could say that. But everyone who sticks and holds on tight to the riba system, they haven't got that virtue. So that's my counter argument to that one. And I think at the time he made this video, Bitcoin was $11,000. Now it's at 30,000. And he said it will go down soon. And it did. I think it did go down to 3 and it went back up again. Now at 30. So that's the interesting thing about Bitcoin. People always say it goes down, but the net movement has always been up. Yes, it goes down momentarily, but it's always going up and up and up. So why does everyone always ignore the overall move and focus on the momentary short-term move? Anyway.